Welcome, everyone.
Steve again from New Zealand. Well done.
Welcome, everyone, to this leadership and facilitation and teaching workshop that we're doing today. As many of you already know, I'm Looby Macnamara and I'm going to be hosting with my partner, Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris in the mountains.
He's not really in the mountains, he's downstairs from me. We are actually in the same place, but here at Applewood in the UK. And I'm feeling grateful for the dinner that I've just had, and I'm feeling grateful for all the people arriving here. Chris?
That's me. I'm in the
So,
mountains in mind, if not body. And yeah, here in the kitchen at Applewood. I'm grateful for the cats that look satisfied of having their dinner, as well as my own dinner. No, I had my dinner. The cats had their dinner. And yeah. So what we can do at the moment, as people are arriving, still people coming in, just write into the chat. If everyone can open their chat and write in that, you can put your name. Maybe your name's already on your Zoom box there. Um, Maybe you've got someone else's name. In which case, write your name anyway and where you're coming from, where your home or where your home is and something that you're grateful for as well. So three things: name, place, and gratitude. There, Luby's written it in the chat. So feel free to start, um, yeah, joining and sharing who you are. Steve again, Steve from New Zealand. Hi, Steve.
hello. I know we've got many countries here, which is wonderful.
Well, in one fell swoop, we've
Yeah,
circumvented the globe to New Zealand and
lovely.
back.
Lovely. Welcome. In this call today, we will be hoping to inspire you on your journey, quite simply, um, for that, to inspire you to step up, to speak out, to be present in your communities, to take some steps towards your leadership, towards your facilitation and teaching in whatever way that can be. And we have some courses as well that will be coming up, some trainings that we will be talking about, but I'll just presence them here so that you can feel them in the field, as it were. And we have the teacher training course, which is actually maybe I'll sorry take a step back. Who am I? I'll introduce myself, and Chris can introduce himself, and then we'll talk about the more about the pathways into leadership and teaching. So I'm Looby Macnamara, as both Chris and I have said. We're in Herefordshire in the UK, Applewood Permaculture Centre, where we run courses here. And we also do online trainings, and we started doing teach trainings back in 2006. So we've actually trained quite a lot of the permaculture teachers present, particularly in the UK and Europe, but further afield as well. People have come to train with us. And as many of you might know, I'm author of People and Permaculture, and then the founder of the Cultural Emergence project as well. So I have this in my hand because I'm going to read something in a moment from it. Yeah, so that's me. Chris, who are you?
I'm unmuted at the moment. That's good. I remembered that. Yeah, I live here too, at Applewood Permaculture Centre in North Herefordshire. So just a few miles from the Welsh border, in the hills. And I suppose half of me is here and half of me is in Nepal, where I've worked for almost 40 years now, as with rural development programs in with farmers in Nepal. So I was there recently, but now I'm here, and but I'm still working with projects there. And at the same time, I suppose my passion is for land-based um, uh, projects, forest gardening, anything fruity, um, and woods and forest, yeah, forest gardens. And so um, that's me. That's me.
Great. Thank you. So, as we were saying, we've done teach trainings, and one of the rationales behind doing teach trainings early on was because we realised that actually the amount of people that one person can teach in permaculture is limited, but if I teach other people to teach, then it can spread out much further. So that's been my passion, actually, as well as when the other reason why I came into this into permaculture was that when I was taught permaculture, I was inspired as much by how I was taught and how that empowered me and how much fun it was compared with mainstream education. So it was as much the joy of learning together and collaboratively and co-creating that inspired me on that journey. And so that really took me a lot further, and then I was inspired to share those tools of facilitation and creative learning and accelerated learning, and to inspire others to step up into their leadership as well. And then with the Cultural Emergence project, it's been like, okay, how do we get more cultural emergence leaders out into the world? And then the Mother Nature project as well, we've been looking at mothers as natural leaders, and we have a free collaboratively written book, Mothers as Natural Leaders, which Emma, who's part of the Mother Nature project, will put that in the chat. And we've got a course, a weekend course here at Applewood on mothers as natural leaders. So yeah, so I wanted to start with reading this from my book, People and Permaculture. This is Ourselves as Leaders. Some people are looking to our nation's leaders to get us out of the mess we're in, waiting for them to take action and show us what we need to do. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Either way, we can't wait for them and avoid the responsibility of taking action for ourselves, for changing our attitudes and behaviours. We need to redefine leadership. What do we want from leaders? What do we want from ourselves? Leadership can take many different forms. In our homes and workplaces, we can stand strong. We can start our organisations and projects, writing and speaking in public, or take on responsibilities in our group. We can be pioneering, breaking new ground. We can expand our circle of influence into our circle of concern. We can look for opportunities, align ourselves with others who share our concerns, and take the initiative. We can forge new pathways of influence. When we take time to look, we can see leaders all around us, people who are stepping into their power, people who are willing to speak out against injustices, people taking charge of their own lives, movers and shakers, activists, writers, campaigners, spokesperson, organisers, and the people who keep track of the administration that enables things to happen. By standing for what we believe in and being willing to push edges and boundaries, we're taking leadership in our own lives. We don't need to wait until we know everything or even know the right thing to do. We can act now to speak our truth and step into our power. We can shine our light as brightly as possible and attract followers. We can know that we will meet challenges along the way and trust that support and our inner resources will come through when we are ready and in need. Leaders are ordinary people who become exceptional through their leadership. Lovely. So, yeah, ordinary people that become exceptional through their leadership. So, over to you, Chris.
So as yeah, I was talking about where your original course was, I was thinking with Steve here was on my PDC that I first did in 1989 in New Zealand. Um, and so it's amazing to see him here after all that time. And thank you for coming. I know you're having breakfast at the moment, aren't you, down in New Zealand? Here we are. So what we thought that now, as we find out more about the session and what the aims are, and now about yourselves, with your names and where you're from, to also in the chat put what's drawn you on to being a facilitator, teacher, or a trainer, or a leader, a person in a position of leadership. What's drawn you here to this course? So spend a couple of minutes putting that, writing in that in the chat. So that would be, yeah, interesting to hear, to see and share, see where we're coming from, what's drawn us on this path, not only to learn our trade, but to train others to learn it as well, which is what this is about.
I'm just putting on some music while you write.
So just to write in the chat.
Wow, well, thank you, everyone. Still
Thanks.
time to carry on writing if you want to. Chris, did you notice
Great
any themes or
intentions.
anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are with an intention, a strong intention of sharing and realizing that, yeah, we need more. We need more teachers and facilitators as well. Some people already having some success in that. Some people intent with an intent, more of an intention. Yeah, interesting. Some people already skilling up. Yeah, people already connected with cultural emergence, people that have been here.
Yeah, it's interesting, the different needs at different places on our pathways. So some people very much kind of need that sort of like support to stretch out and step up, and then other people who have been doing it for a while and would like to gain more tools and be more effective out in the world. Wonderful. So we will return to those things
Mm.
in the chat in a while. I wanted to share something about this. We've been using the words facilitation, teaching, and leadership, and just wanted to share something around the intersection and overlap and differences between all of them. And so with facilitation, we're holding space for the group to emerge the solutions together collaboratively. With teaching, it's more of a transmission of information and tools, and then in leadership, facilitation and teaching are forms of leadership, but as I read earlier, leadership can show up in many different forms, and that's what we've been doing with the Mother Nature Project as well, thinking out about our mothering as leadership. So leadership can show up in our daily lives as well. And there is an overlap between all of those, and they feed into each other. So there isn't a distinct, this is leadership and this is facilitation over here and teaching over here. They weave into each other. And yeah, so Chris, do you want to do the gratitude piece?
Unmute. As part of the ongoing learning about where we are and who we are, where we come from, it's about also recognizing lineage of where we've learned our skills and had our motivation and our inspiration, our knowledge, our wisdom from. So we were thinking of trying a whiteboard, but it defeated us for a while. So again, it's going to be writing in the chat. Um, Either way, it's sharing. So who has been your most or one example of an inspirational teacher or facilitator or mentor that you've experienced? Maybe it could have been someone providing inspiration, or maybe a tool, a learning tool. You think, oh, I learned about six hats and it's been so useful in my work or teaching. So just to think about that and give gratitude for a teacher of your past or present that is, particularly providing you with an example of what they've done,
So
what you're
it, it
grateful for.
this might be your permaculture teacher, or someone recent. It might be someone from your school that really supported you at a challenging time or led you on your life path. But just to give some gratitude to those teachers in our lives, because I think so I would like to, as you're writing, I would like to give gratitude to my first permaculture teachers, who were Bryn Thomas and Pippa Johns down in Brighton in 1999. And I give gratitude for them for the fun in learning. That was really something new that I hadn't experienced before, and it was so joyful, the whole experience. So I'd like to give gratitude to both of them. And also for Pippa to pass on, she said to me, well, I've become a permaculture teacher because someone said to me there weren't enough women permaculture teachers. So that stayed with me. Chris, which teachers would you like to give
I
gratitude
I have a
for?
I have a very rich mix of people that I definitely have inspired me and totally influenced what I'm doing now, 40 years after first hearing about, or 38 years since first hearing about permaculture. One is Bill Mollison himself, who was actually a really poor teacher. He'd chain smoke at the front of a class and just talk. But he did what he does, yeah. And with him, Lee Harrison, who was actually much more of a mentor. And then I think Fukuoka's book, One Straw Revolution, if you've heard of that, was what triggered something in me before I'd even heard about permaculture. But when I actually traveled to Japan and stayed with him for a while, back in 1988, that was also a real uh, big moment of change. And when I was hitching back, he made a little sign for me, to tell lorry drivers that, to pick me up and take me back. That I'd been on a almost like a vision quest with him. It wasn't. It was. I just hung out at his place, but he was very kind and gave me some seed to take back to Nepal. Um, yeah, so I'm very grateful for them particular. So is
Yeah, it's great to
others.
see.
uh, Yes, Patrick Whitefield, a massive permaculture trainer teacher from the UK.
Lovely. It's so great to see all these names coming up in the chat. So
Oh, my
many.
mum. That's a great one. Yes, some of the original teacher, your first teacher, generally, Sarah Pugh. Blessings on those that have gone before.
Wonderful. Oh, it's so nice to feel that wave of people that have been supporting us. And leading from this gratitude, I'd like to name some of, you might think this is a bit of a shift, but I think it's important to name that there are limits, limiting beliefs that we might place on ourselves, that we think, I can't do this. I can't be a teacher because I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I haven't trained enough. Someone else can do this better than me. All these limiting beliefs. Maybe wave your hand if you've ever had one of those limiting beliefs. Anyone? Anyone ever thought any of those things? Maybe a few people. My Zoom is maybe a little bit slow here. I see some hands. And they're quite common limiting beliefs. It's like someone else will do this. Who am I to do this? And actually, what we see from what's in that gratitude in the chat is the uniqueness of each of those teachers, that what they've brought is something that only they could bring, that they can do in their way. And so turning those limiting beliefs around from I don't know enough. It's like, well, I will learn in the process, and someone else can do this better than me. It's like, actually, only you can do this in your way. that your uniqueness is what you can bring and no one else can bring. And that is really significant, that we need many leaders in the world at the moment. The world needs it, doesn't it? There's no denying. I don't think anyone will dispute that we are in a time of challenge on this planet, and we need as many of us to step up into our fullness, our full aliveness as we can, and to inspire others to get involved in permaculture and cultural emergence. People have mentioned the work that reconnects here, and many other tools that we know are effective, that we know can influence people and make positive change in their lives. And just from the chat there, we're bringing forth people that maybe we've spent a week with or 2 weeks with, maybe we spent longer with, but they had a positive impact in our lives. And when we come into our self-leadership, our personal leadership, when we come into sharing with others in whatever way we're doing, we're offering that to the world, and we don't know where that might go. So I'm going to invite you now to close your eyes for a moment, and we're going to just do a small visualization here. So just settling into your body, and taking your awareness to your full body, and taking some deep breaths. And then calling to mind the teacher that you've just shared about, that you've just given gratitude to. And then going back, who were their teachers? And maybe you don't know their names, but you know that they had teachers. They had people that supported them, that inspired them. And then going back, thinking about their teachers. Thinking about the mothers and the teachers at school, and maybe reading books that inspired. And going back through generations, wherever your imagination takes you, going back. Learning from the grandmothers, learning from the mentors, learning in the village, happening in every direction. And feeling this flow of energy and inspiration and tools and stories. Feeling that coming through the generations, being refined and shared and elaborated and expanded. Maybe you've got to prehistory stage where people are in the village, round the fire, hunter-gatherers, wherever you've got to now, trace that energy back through the generations, flowing back towards you now. Through the generations, coming back to you in this present moment. And then from this present moment, imagine going forwards, inspiring people, sending ripples into their lives. And then imagine them inspiring other people. And another generation of many more people being inspired and uplifted. And then many more. So it's like a tree branching from the trunk to the branches, to the twigs, and again, more and more and more. So from the one trunk, we get to thousands of twigs there. And just feel that flow of energy coming in. So the flow of energy from the past, from your lineage of the past, coming in through your back and then coming out through your chest and flowing out to more and more people. I have a poem to read by Donna Markova. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. I thought that was a beautiful way of describing the lineages. You're welcome to open your eyes now. So, did anyone have anything they'd like to share from that visualization? Yeah, the poem was by Donna Markova. I'll put that in the chat. Anyone want to share anything? You've all gone quiet into a peaceful state. That's fine if no one wants to share. Okay. Did anyone want to share? Ted, did you want to share something?
Yeah, that was really helpful actually, just thinking back. Often we kind of hold our teachers or the people that inspire us in a kind of awe of like that we can, like you said, that who are we to feel we can pass on, or we're not ready or we're not as, we're not enough. And so it was really beautiful, yeah, just to kind of think back through all the lineages of how they came to be and what they stepped into. And yeah, that was a really lovely practice. Thank you. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks for sharing. And Julia's written in the chat there, very powerful for me, the experience and wisdom of lineages coming from behind me and going out into the world in front of me. Thanks, Looby. From Keegan, invoke the light from behind the eyes of all the masters throughout the ages. That's a quote from someone. Could put if you know who that quote is from. Yeah, thank you. And I doing that visualization as well, what occurred to me was where there might be blockages, not just for us personally, but as a wider culture, where there's blockages about us sharing, and how that's almost was holding us back kind of collectively from stepping up and from being the collective powerful force that we could be. And so not just singular, like what can I do, but how can we collectively make a difference, that we're kind of suppressed, and that if we allowed that flow, how different things could be. Ah, thank you. Chris, do you have any reflections to say now?
There could be lots, but there's probably not time to talk about them all.
Just
But
one or
yeah,
two,
it's a
Chris.
great. Um, I think for me it boils down to ideas, inspiration, and information. The what I've been kind of, I feel almost like I'm directed to provide or share. So I call it the three eyes, and in some form or another, it all comes. But yeah, um,
Would
it's
you
having
say those?
the confidence and the competence is another way of looking at it. And some things you get from some people and some things from other people, but ultimately you have to mix it together and do it yourself to be able to communicate and inspire and teach, and it involves sharing. It involves taking as well as giving. So yeah, but it's a great metaphor of the flower pollination. It's like the pollination between two different beings that leads that from the flower that leads to the fruit, as well. So it's not just a single entity involved, but multiple entities involved. Yeah.
Could you say the three eyes again, Chris?
Ideas, inspiration, and information. And you can play about with which comes in what order. Maybe there isn't an order, but it's more like a triangle than a line. Um, I think yeah, that's what we're providing or sharing.
Mm.
So it's like the wisdom and the practice but also the intention, the commitment, the passion that comes with it as well. It's not just a job.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, another reflection from Momoko. When I was thinking about the seed to blossom and also blossom to fruit, and this passing, a thought came to me of how also the fruit brings seeds, and it is a cycle. And this flow of energy and love and compassion and wisdom between each of us is also cyclical, and how we give and also receive among us and also the non-human world and non-physical world. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I thought I'd bring in a couple of the cultural emergence principles now, which is come into the light, look below the surface, be bold, listen to quiet voices, bring your gifts into the light, and embrace potential. Potential may emerge quickly or slowly. Open your arms to possibilities. Growth is non-linear. So those are, I think, two very appropriate principles for inviting us to step into the light. And yeah, I think there's probably a principle that goes with Momoko's comment there about the cyclical and what we're doing. What we have the phrase of creating a field of encouragement, and that is the aim within cultural emergence when we're creating these group cultures, that they're a field of encouragement, that encouragement goes in all directions. So it's not just the flow of encouragement from me to the course participants, but it's going in all directions. So that's, I think, appropriate with your comment there. that it flows amongst them. So we thought we'd have a little kind of break or pause watching a video that was made a while back on a teach training course, but we've got a couple of videos, but this one we thought was really fun. So I'm going to, hopefully you can see, let's go back to the beginning, hopefully you can see in here.
As a wave across the land, we are moving, moving. Say no face the change these bodies make, and the way they are facing forward, shoulder to the stone, telling of moving. It takes one step, it takes your voice, it takes your voice saying, I am not hearing if you are not naming it, I am not stopping if you are not changing it. Here are my hands, let's see what they're making. In the morning, in the rise up, there's a bridge from all that's been. In the dawning, the vines are pushing through the pavement. We were born of burning hearts, we are tearing off the reins. From the ground up we will build it, from the clouds above we'll rain it, from the crowd up we will raise it, from the ground up. You hold the spade to turn new soil for the coming grace. You hold the plans. No hands but our hands will lead our children. All that will feed you is a fierce prayer, is a fierce prayer, saying, I am not hearing if you are not naming it, I am not stopping if you are not changing it. Here are my hands, let's see what they're making. In the morning, in the rise up, there's a bridge from all that's been. In the dawning, the vines are pushing through the pavement. We were born of burning hearts, we are tearing off the reins. From the ground up we will build it, from the clouds above we'll rain it, from the crowd up we will raise it, from the ground up.
Hmm. Lovely. Yes. So that was the teacher training course that we did with Rosemary Morrow, um, and yeah, Delvin Solkinson, who was that was the first time I'd met him, and now I collaborate with him a lot with the group diploma. Yeah, my hair's grown longer since then, um, and but I loved some of the phrases that came up there about listening people into being and creating what I was talking about, that field of encouragement where people shine because they are in that field of encouragement. And we have another principle here of use the intelligence of cooperating hearts, and that's what we're doing when we create this grouping culture that allows people to come from the heart space, that allows that cooperation to come through. So, Chris, do you want to share something from that video or from?
So that was from that was from a previous incarnation of Applewood, or let's say the first Applewood, um, on a piece of land in the Golden Valley in South Herefordshire. And we didn't live there. We were thinking that we'd get the land to live there, but it's funny. I mean, doing that Todd and watching that video brings up such a lot of that time and those feelings of wanting to get out and teach and demonstrate. So my passion, I suppose, from Nepal also was we realized that to create change, we need to demonstrate it. We need to be the change, which someone has already said that we need to be the change. But that was very much with Nepalese farmers to create demonstrations and then training from those demonstrations. So until you actually do something or create something, then it's difficult to teach it. And so that was our first stab, really. But even as that process was starting of acquiring the land, being on the land, we had this opportunity to facilitate or host this trainers training with Row Morrow, and so we went for it, and it was yeah, 10 days of gorgeous weather. They just cut the hay, and so I still remember the smell of the cut hay in the deep summer. And the shepherd's hut that some of you might recognize from here, that was when it was brand new. It had just been made and plumbed into the middle of this field. So we put the marquee up, and then you've seen the marquee here as well. So that was when we just got the marquee. So there's a bit of history being made there as well. Yeah. And that place is now in safe hands. We've moved on. The fields there are still the trees that were planted and are growing strong. Yeah. So we're going to
Yeah,
move
it just
into space for Q&A
um,
now. Questions,
in a
or
moment.
was there
Yeah, I've just
something
got one
else?
more piece. Yeah, I just wanted to
Okay.
share a picture here, which some of you might have seen on social media. And this is the Circles of Concern and Influence, which is one of Stephen Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people, to keep our attention in our circle of influence so that we can grow our circle of influence into our circle of concern, and stepping into our leadership, upskilling ourselves, learning facilitation skills are all ways in which we can increase our circle of influence to reach into the circle of concern. Because, as I said, we've all got many concerns in the world at the moment. So, but if we spend our time in the circle of concern, our circle of influence shrinks. So we need to spend our time in our circle of influence and grow that through learning more skills. Yeah. Yes. So yes, we have got some time for some questions, as Chris said.
No, there's different ways. There's different ways we
Chris,
can do that.
I was
Uh, in the chat, questions in the chat, or raise hands and speak to them. But that's what we've got time for now, basically. So if you want to ask about cultural emergence or teaching, facilitation, anything about your own situation
our people are
that
thinking.
you maybe.
Chris, do you want to come upstairs? Because I think and turn off your Zoom because I think our internet's struggling with 2 Zooms.
Not to leave the mountains, you mean? Or
Yeah,
sad to leave the
climb.
mountains?
You can bring the cats with you though. Um,
Cats are playful, disruptive things. Okay.
yeah, so while Chris is transitioning and you thinking about your questions, I'd like to share with you again about the different courses that we have and just give you some ideas about that. So we have the Mothers as Natural Leaders weekend in April, which is in person here at Applewood. And we have the teach training in June, which I know Kathy and Cream you've been on, which is a 10-day immersive experience, which really gives you the confidence through practice. That's really what that course does, because we give you loads of opportunities to okay, welcome Chris, transitioned.
Hello. Come all this way. Come all this way from the mountains. You know, I had to walk and then get a plane ride and then a bus and then a train and here I am. What a long journey.
And so yeah, I was just talking about the teach training and sharing about that as a 10-day experience where we get you doing as much practice as possible. So in a way, we create a really safe environment for you to step up and try and experiment with creative teaching methods and just get confident by and being comfortable holding space for the group. And then we've got the CELT, which is the Cultural Emergence Leadership Training, which is for people who have already done the modules of Cultural Emergence, the ACE, the Design Adventures, and the which used to be the Seed course, and the Peace course, so which we will be running again next year. So if you know, that's also something that I think when you're thinking about these like advanced, you know, taking yourself further on the journey, to think long term. It's not just going to happen in a few months, but you can be planning already, thinking, yes, okay, next year I'd like to be doing the CELT, so I'll get the courses I need to do now to really lay the groundwork for those future plans. We won't be doing the teach training next year, but I will be doing the CELT, and the CELT is a year-long online program, which is 15 months. So yeah, have people got questions for us? And maybe, yeah, Emma's kindly putting the links in the chats for all of these and the dates. Yeah, who's got a question? Any question at all about leadership, about facilitation? Yeah, anything you'd like to share? You can put your hands up.
Steve.
Where's... Okay, great. Yeah, great. Steve, go for it.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. It's an intriguing subject. You know, I've been around a little while and had lots of experience with lots of different permaculture characters. I've also done a teaching degree at university, and I've taught secondary school for 3 years. But it's always a subject that has often confused me, how to be an excellent teacher. And the 3 I's is incredible. What I've experienced through my time is to be able to teach, you actually have to know your material. If you don't know your material, you really need to have a great skill in how to answer those tricky questions that are thrown at you in a very positive manner. And one easy trick is to say, I don't know, and turn it around. But, is there, Looby, I feel there's another book on the way, the Manual of Teaching and Facilitating, because, the whole subject of permaculture is so broad. It's very, very difficult for one teacher to know the entire subject. I know Bill Mollison was an incredibly intelligent and witty character. I spent quite a lot of time with him, and it still to this day it amazes me how intelligent he really was. And it's great that he actually pushed the idea of teaching in groups because of the content and information, as you call it, Chris, the 3 I's. Critical to have the information, or at least the resources to point people in the direction to go and research the answer to their questions. But, is there another book on the way, Looby?
There is another book on the way, but it's not that one. It's the book is Design Adventures, which is coming out later this year. It's on the sort of the long distance plan to do a more of a facilitation book, but it's not. I haven't started it. But yeah, Chris, do you want to say something about those 3 I's and?
Well, I totally understand and agree with what you say about Steve about. So it's content and process. You need two things. You need to know your stuff, and you need to know how to pass it on to someone. I mean, you can boil it down to those two things as well. I like in a way simplifying processes. So yeah, the 3 I's is one. It's like, well, I like the ethics. You've only got 3 ethics. If we follow them, you can do anything in permaculture. So yeah, knowing your stuff, and Bill knew his stuff, and he was inspiring. He wasn't a particularly good teacher in the way that we think of him, of participatory and interactive and that sort of thing. He talked and he smoked, and then he drew on the board in chalk in those days, and at any time the course that you kind of convened, I remember, and you were a participant of, that I was as well. It was 63 people on the PDC, and at any one time around about a third of them were asleep, so we kind of took it in turns. And partly because it was so exhausting, intellectually exhausting, as well as being a little bit boring. We were sitting on on floors, on cushions, on chairs, or whatever. So sometimes you can get away with not knowing how to deliver inspiration, ideas, and information, but you can just have a different charisma that enables it to go across. Yeah.
But it's there are different things, and I think we've all come across like an expert who is absolutely amazing at what they do, but you cannot teach it. Because it's kind of become invisible to them, almost the process of how to do it, and they can't go back to that beginner's mind and help you to go through the process. So we've all come across that as well. So it's not necessarily that you just need more information, because also we will always get questions that we don't know the answer for, and it's one of the, I think, the kind of the fears of beginner teachers is you're going to get a question you don't know the answer for, and you can like throw that out the window straight away, because you're guaranteed to get a question. You almost your course isn't interesting enough if someone isn't like stretching the edges and asking a question that you don't know the answer from. and so there's many ways in which you can respond when you have a question you don't know the answer from. A simple "I don't know" is fine, but also I lean into the principle of many minds are better than one of the cultural emergence principles, but the card is missing at the moment. And that is a way of like saying, okay, actually, as a group, where can we stretch into the answers of that particular question? Where can we stretch and go into something and find more answers ourselves? Like who knows something about that? Where can we go? And that it becomes then a co-created learning experience for everyone, and it isn't just, oh, the teacher doesn't know, oh, that's it, will go away not knowing anything. It's like, how do we invite that space where the answer emerges? So yeah, Emma's put in there one of my my favourite ways of responding there. Does anyone else have a reflection on this? So I might give some thoughts and then ask for who else in the group can share something. And Kathy's written, one of my inspirational stories is of some older illiterate person in a Spanish village taking over the school when there was no teacher and all the children came out literate. That was a while ago. Yeah, beautiful. Does anyone else? Yeah, and Azra, in forest school we learn a topic together if there's no expertise on hand. Yeah, so one of the things on the many minds better than one is that to honour the beginner's mind as well, because it's not just about the expert, also because when you become like an expert or doing something, whatever expert means, or doing something for many years, decades, you become very entrenched in your own patterns of thinking, your own patterns of doing something. And then a beginner's mind can come along and be like, why don't you do it that way? And you're like, oh, well, that technology wasn't around 20 years ago when I started, so I never thought of it, or I've just always done it this way. So the beginner's mind is also really valuable, and that's where the whole group experience really supports that. Does anyone else have a question for us? Okay, Emma's. Did I see another hand going up? Steve, did you have another question? See your hand?
Yeah, it's again, it's an intriguing subject around. Chris, you remember that course in New Zealand, Waiheke Island, where there were 63 of us, and you may remember there was nearly a mutiny, and that's an intriguing subject. And I've been on a number of courses where there have been near mutinies, and how they are handled is a great challenge in itself. Interestingly, the mutiny on that course, Chris, you were on, was all about biodynamics, and Bill Mollison wrote it off as fairies in the bottom of the garden. Now, we know now that biodynamics has grown considerably, and it's probably an integral part of permaculture in many ways. In fact, the guy that led that potential mutiny on that course, Glenn Atkinson, is now the leading biodynamic scientist in the world. So it's an intrigue of how the course facilitators or the tutors handle those situations, and a lot of skill is required there.
Skill and cohesion. Again, the group supports itself when it's kind of held in the right way. So that's a really key skill. And it becomes, it's often, yes, you do get what do we call it on a tot where we do troubleshooting type.
Yeah.
You get difficult situations like that, and sometimes they're caused by people, sometimes they're caused by the weather, or a herd of buffalo. There can be all sorts of reasons, and yeah, we need to be quite inventive sometimes to work with them. A cohesive group is so much more resilient to disruption, if you like, in that flow of teaching and sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. TOT is for training of teachers, and CELT is the Cultural Emergence Leadership Training. Sorry, acronyms for. I was thinking of this principle, so I've got a whole load of principles, and they come up with this one, which is make connection first, and it's also is about coming together, like in the beginning, but it's also about continually prioritize nourishing interactions with others. So if you're keeping that connection, ensuring people are seen, heard, understood, able to contribute and are valued, then if you're keeping that, then I don't think you get to that point of mutiny. I mean, I can imagine, of course, with Bill, he's, was very contentious that it would get to the point of mutiny, but I don't think on any of my courses I wouldn't call any of them mutiny. Certainly there's been challenges, as you say, the weather or the food, or someone gets ill, or personal life stuff happens to someone, and it's challenging. But if you keep this principle of like stay connected as a group, work through it together, then I don't think you get to that point of mutiny. It's like, let's hear everyone's voices and value everyone. So I would say challenges definitely. I think there's been and some quite deep challenges, but not mutiny.
And it's also about understanding needs. So what's the needs of the group? People come with needs. People need even manifest themselves on a course, things that you didn't know you need in order to teach or facilitate. You realize, oh, I haven't got that. So recognizing that, and again, we can do that for each other. You can do it for yourself, but also the process of feedback. And there's lots of different ways of recognizing that. But I think, again, coming back to the multiple roles, so teaching and facilitation is one immensely important role. The other actually is designing. So if you put those two together, and you have a really effective skill set, so you can design and you can teach design. Or so again, in Nepal we have a program, we call them the barefoot consultants. So they're farmers basically that have become very competent in the design, the agroecology and that sort of thing. And then they're given like the trainer's training, facilitation skills. And so all of a sudden they become agents of change. And they started that work by working on their own farms and changing and developing their own farms first. And then picked up the training and facilitation skills, and then they become skilled up to a point where they can go, instead of having to go to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf to migrate and earn remittances to send back to Nepal, they can actually get work in Nepal, in their own villages, in their own districts or provinces, training up other farmers on agroecology. So you see those patterns. It's the process and the content. It's knowing your stuff and how to deliver it as well, how to share it with others.
There's a question here from Helen. I'm really interested in adding your amazing work in cultural emergence to my permaculture teaching. I'd love to know how to incorporate it. I'm going to be facilitating Introduction to Permaculture and a PDC. Thank you, Helen. Yes, I'd love for you to bring it in. One of the reasons for creating the seed deck, which I know you were my first person to get them with my Kickstarter, is that I see it as the wisdom of the people joins the wisdom of the cards. And you as a facilitator is just bringing them out and holding space for that. So they're really, they're teaching tools there that are ready to use. So I know you have been on on my courses, and you've got that experience, but even if you didn't have, you would still be able to use them in your facilitation, because you can just go look at them. Maybe you've got a particular topic that you're dealing with that you could find some, or maybe at the beginning of the session of the course you invite everyone to pick a principle for how they would like the group culture to be. That's a really simple way of bringing them in. And I think then, permaculture is about permanent culture. So it's like, how do it, it's about the culture of how we're interacting with the land. And we might not see it as such, or realize that initially, but that is what we're doing with permaculture, is we're changing our patterns of interaction. That's our patterns of interacting with ourselves, with each other, with the land. So to bring that cultural awareness to everyone's attention, that it is about, that we do need those cultural changes for the bigger changes to happen, that they won't just happen themselves. So you can bring them into like particular, so those are places, so like at the beginning, or then into particular sessions. So I did a propagation session on your forest gardening course, and I was like, well, which principles? And it was like, okay, be attentive to timing. You can't just propagate plants at any time. You need to think about when it's appropriate timing. And there were a few others that I picked out, so you can keep bringing them in at times. So Barbara has said that she's offered to exchange ideas about bringing more cultural emergence into courses. Many minds better than one. So I mean, that's where I start from, is this point of like saying, okay, well, actually, like bringing in the cultural awareness, and that as a so even with your designs, like your garden, what's the culture of your garden? How would it, what are you trying to bring in here? Is it beauty? Is it productivity? What are you trying to bring in here? And to start that process of awareness, and then bringing in some of the nature connection tools as well, so that people can design more than just with their head, but their whole body. There's many ways. I think that coming up in the next year, there'll probably be some lesson plans about how to bring an introduction to cultural emergence for PDCs. I have got one, but it kind of looks a bit like that at the moment. So I need to make it more understandable for people. Let's see, are there any more questions in here? Kathy, oh yeah, we use the seed deck in the PDC this summer. Sometimes a card each person, sometimes just one card. It worked beautifully, and the participants loved it. Yeah, so that's great. So it could just be like, okay, everyone, so with this card here is visioning. So we did some visioning together already. And then for Kareem, I'm thinking, in contrast to a PDC, which has a fixed number of topics that need to be taught, are you thinking of doing something similar for cultural emergence, where key topics, themes, processes or practices that need to be taught, shared when offering cultural emergence? Well, that's a big question. Well, that's part of the CELT, to kind of really feel into that, of like how we will so we've got the ACE and the piece and the design adventures that focus on the different. So the ACE course focuses on cultural awareness that I've just started talking about, and then the design adventures on the design web, and then the piece on the nature connection. And then they could be, then they sort of interweave with each other. And I think with the with the CELT course, we'll be going into that and looking at, okay, well, where do we go as a cultural emergence movement, and how do we make this more accessible, and that there can be and so it feels like the focus with cultural emergence courses is much more process oriented than content. Yes, yes, and it is a toolbox that we want to use and embody, and there are skills behind it, and fluency of using the principles and using the practices. So I think it, and some PDCs are more content driven, so it is more teaching, and some PDCs are more process driven, where there is much more of a connection and empowerment piece. Because I think for me, when I was doing my permaculture design course, not all of the tools were really applicable to me, or but it was the process that actually really empowered me and wanted and enlivened me to the point where I wanted to carry on. So yeah, I think that, as you said, the balance of process and content can be different in different circumstances. And yeah, so we've got space for kind of maybe another question, and then we will finish at past, but we'll stay behind if anyone has any questions about any of the particular courses. And I know some of you have already signed up for some of them, or thinking about them. So do just, if you want to stay behind and ask more questions, or if you want to email us, and Emma and I will respond to those questions. But is there one more questions before we go into our kind of closing part? Any questions, any hands? I don't see any hands, so do you want to ask the closing?
Yeah, Loobys spoke with me.
Okay.
So as we bring the session to a close, we wanted to end with hearing about some of your intentions, and maybe what you've taken from this session, from this gathering, or what are your next steps. So you've got intentions, takeaways, next steps.
Any of those.
Any of the above. And yeah, Looby's just writing it down in the chat. We're going to give people a chance to speak them, or just write them.
If anyone would like to speak, they can, or otherwise we'll. So yeah, is there anyone who would like to speak? Otherwise, otherwise let's put some music on and give everyone a moment to think and reflect. And look, we've got so a couple of minutes. Great, we'll start reading some out. So from Helen, really passionate about sharing cultural emergence. Yes. And Kathy really enjoyed the visualization, helping me to reconnect. I needed that. And really enjoyed all the meta dialogue on permaculture and teaching. My next steps are to put my head down and get everything in order, including moving, so I'm ready for the CELT in March. Hooray. Great. From Elena, I like the idea of creating a field of encouragement rather than encouraging individuals from the direction of the teachers towards the students. Yes, that's a really powerful shift, isn't it? It kind of takes some of the weight off our shoulders as well. It's like actually that direction that encouragement comes from all directions. From Darlene, looking forward to attend this training next year, maybe online. Collaborative and participatory learning is my takeaway. Thank you. From Azra, I intend to focus on learning the various cultural emergence aspects. Wonderful, Azra, and so maybe you'll be ready for the CELT next year. From Ted, a bit of a sideways thread, but I'm curious about how to use the seed cards in singing workshops on the land. Oh, that's a lovely idea. From Emma, ideas, information and inspiration, keeping the core reason to share our skills at the heart of what I do and share. Lovely. There are more coming in. Do you want to read?
So Momoko says, just being here in this call today was so inspiring. I hope someday I can join one of the courses in person. You're very welcome. I think it's one of the very rare times that a Zoom call felt like sitting around on a bonfire. That's nice to hear. Lots of love and gratitude to you too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. You'll need to join some more of our Zoom calls because I always feel like it's sitting around a bonfire. So we've got lots of online courses that you can join us in. And yeah, we've got more free ones this week, the Mother Nature one and the Cultural Emergence Collective, and the peace course next week, which will be definitely, the peace is definitely like sitting around a bonfire. So do join that one as well. And from Kareem, the key takeaway, know your stuff and know how to share them, and the power of learning through play. Next steps, integrate cultural emergence in my team building workshops and deepen my practice and learning in permaculture. Lovely. And, oh, hello. From Ted, looking forward to the peace call. Yes. Thanks for this lovely space. Yes, do. I'd love to see you more, all of you, again in some of our other free calls in February. So from Liana, such a privilege to have access to such rich learning possibilities and opportunities. Really appreciating that this is being gifted. Looking forward to diving deeper in 2026, but staying connected with what I've been blessed with to date. Thank you, Liana. Yes, to join us again. From Julia, my intention is that I will buy the Cultural Emergence books, and material from it has been used on Guy Education course, Cultivating Regenerative Livelihoods. I got a lot from it then, and this has reminded me that I need to buy it and the card deck. Thanks for this, helpful for me, and as I start doing more facilitating. Wonderful. And I think Emma will probably put in the chat where you can get the card deck and the book from me direct. And Emma's also put in the next free workshops that we've got coming up. Wonderful. Wonderful. So let's see, I've got a few cards. Do you want to pick a couple of cards for us to end with? Do you want to pick one for me? Oh, you can have both of them. Go on then, you read them out, what you've got.
So this is one that I'm particularly often very keen on. Trust the process. So the process, trust in the process, go with it, understand it, believe in it, and it will lead. And sometimes things might seem out of process, but trust the process and trust the wisdom of the group as well, to lean into the methods, articulate the process, and reflects on the ebbs and flows. So yeah, if the process changes, understand why it's changed, and but trust that it's all going in the right direction. Do you want to?
No, you do that one.
So the other one is growing in effectiveness, and so be clear on the effect that you want to have. So that's like having clear goals, a clear vision as well, and utilize your time, energy, and resources well. And your designs and contributions to the world will have maximum effect. Our capacity increases as we become more effective. So really it's about, yeah, I mean, the whole thing about this urgency, actually, personally, I feel, is leads to the need to be effective. So we've only got so much time. Our resources are boundaried. Maybe they're not limited, but they're boundaried. And so it's finding those boundaries, but being effective within that's like Lou was saying, the sphere of influence.
Lovely.
One
Pick
more.
for me, because I can't decide which ones to share. Okay, this is great. So these two I'd like to end you with. The connection practice is one. So connect with the individual and collective wisdom, genius, power and gifts. Connect deeply to yourself, others and the more than human world. Feel part of the bigger picture of life and connect with your own nature and your authentic self. And that's really what we're doing here to create that field of encouragement. Is the connection practices are key. And then plan and flow. Plans direct attention, energy and resources. Follow the energy, curiosity and enthusiasm. Flow with the impulses that arise. Ask what is needed right now. And I think that is one of my my go-to principles for facilitation, is make a plan, then flow with the group. So thank you all. Yeah, so Emma's put some more links in the chat there for taster courses and all of that. And we'll send the recording out. Thank you to those watching the recording as well. Thank you to all of you for coming. Hope that it's given you a little bit of inspiration on wherever you are on your journey, and some momentum, and to know that there's all these other people that are interested in upskilling and sharing as well. So that's really, thank you. So from Azra, it's always enriching being in these cultural emergence circles and reminded of the importance of this work. Thank you for sharing. Lovely. Well, go well, everyone. We have planned and we've flowed right up to the past, but we'll stop the recording, but we'll hang around for a little bit if anyone wants to connect with us.